So if you guys are, is this your first time joining, my name is Alex and I'm joined here by Amanda. We are both onboarding specialists here at Kartra. So you may have met us in the past if you're a new customer. We typically meet with every new customer and kind of give them a little update on Kartra, kind of walk them through and show them how they can use Kartra to basically build out their businesses. Today, we're going to be doing a kind of a short little Learn Kartra live session, about an hour, on building pages. So today we're going to cover everything that has to do with building pages when it comes to actually building those pages and all of the settings that go along with it. If you guys have any questions, like Amanda said, just put them in the chat and we'll pause at the end of the demonstration to answer them all. Just going to start here with a short presentation to kind of go over all of the topics, and then we'll jump into the actual demonstration there. All right, so here we go, building pages in Kartra. So kind of the first thing that I like to explain is just how the page builder is set up, because it really, I guess learning this can really solve a lot of issues, especially for people going in for the first time. I get a lot of questions on, like, how do I actually edit the structure of the page? And it really comes down to how the page builder is broken down. There's really 3 layers to it. The first is going to be the sections, and sections are pretty much like pre-built templates. You can add sections to your pages. You can add blank sections and build things out, but pages are basically built by adding, combining different sections together. Maybe you have a header section, maybe you have a section that's for like your call to action, or maybe you have your product section where people are actually purchasing your products. When you're in the page builder, you'll see like this add section button. It always kind of looks blue, and that's where you're able to add different sections, edit your sections, and move them around. The next layer below that is going to be the columns layer, and that basically lets you set up within those sections how many columns and rows you have within there. So basically the structure, if you need to change things like how things are spaced apart from one another, or how many columns you have in a section, maybe you want to add another column or make columns more evenly spaced. That's all going to be in the column editor, and there's a little toggle at the top of the page builder that lets you switch between column mode and regular editing mode for things like components. And these are color coded the same way that they are within the page builder. So columns will always have this kind of teal greenish color to it. Sections always have this blue color, and when you're editing components, they always have the orange color. And components are all of the actual items on the page, whether it be text, any sort of other Kartra assets that you're putting into that page, images, videos. Components are pretty much like the actual bread and butter, the actual items you're putting onto that page. So I'll explain this a little more when we get into the actual demonstration and show you guys how these layers are broken down. But this is pretty much how the page builder is structured, where you have your sections, columns, and components. And depending on which one you want to edit, you need to make sure that you're editing the appropriate section of that page. Next, with Kartra is really good at providing you with page templates. There are hundreds, I think almost 500 page templates when you're actually selecting a page. And the template gallery, you can search through it. You can choose different categories when you're going through those templates. So it's always a good idea, especially for beginners. I always tell people, look through the templates, find one you like, start from there other than starting from scratch, because it's a lot easier to kind of get used to the page builder when you have something there. On top of the actual template gallery, which again, there's about 500 solo individual page templates, there are individual section templates once you're actually in the builder. So you don't really need to build pages out yourself. Kartra really does provide you with all the tools to kind of make it very easy. So you can quickly put together a page just by choosing a regular template, going in, removing any sections you don't want, adding any sections you do want, moving things around, and then, you have a page built. All you have to do is replace the colors, text, images, right? So always take advantage of the templates. Kartra is really good at adding those, and I think they add them pretty regularly. Like, there's sometimes where I'll see new templates pop up and they have that like little new banner next to them. It will show you like all the ones that were recently added. Next is the Kartra AI. So Kartra AI is available within your pages. I'm not sure if you guys have taken advantage of it yet, but it's a pretty good tool. There are two ways to use Kartra AI when you're in the page builder. The first way is just to use it on the sidebar, and that's going to generate copy for your entire page. Honestly, it's not the best when you do it that way, just because you're going to get copy in, like, let's say you have a section that is for your products. You can't really control, what text is going to go into what section. So I personally like using it for individual text boxes. If you click on a text box within the page builder, you'll see the Kartra AI button pop up, and you can say, write me a sales pitch, or write me a, product, what's it called, description, and it'll reply, give you that information. You can say, make revisions to this or keep it. But the Kartra AI tool is available for you if you need any help writing copy, right? It's just like having, it's only going to be for text, just to kind of give you guys a head up. There is no AI for design right now, just going to be for text copy. And the next topic when it comes to pages, and this is something that confuses a lot of people when they first get into it, is sites. You'll see sites in Kartra, and there's pretty much two ways that the sites work. The first way is to actually create a website. So if your goal is to create an actual website through Kartra, you can set up a site. And what sites allow you to do is group those pages together and share all the global elements between them. So you'll share things like any headers, footers, your actual color palette, your I think like fonts families, right? All those basic things that are kind of generic and will apply to all of your pages in the site. You can create a website, and all of that stuff is going to automatically be, put onto every page that's associated with that site. The other way to use sites in Kartra is just to group pages together. So if you're doing something like building a funnel or building just like pages for a specific business, and you want all those pages to kind of be listed together so that you can easily find them, a site is a great way to group them all together. You don't have to share global elements between them, but it'll just, when you're going through your account, you can say, oh, I just want to see all the pages that are associated with this funnel. Click on that site, and there are all your pages, right there grouped together for you. So there's kind of two ways to use them. You don't have to set up sites in Kartra, but it's just a good organizational tool for grouping pages together. Or if you're building a website, definitely use the sites feature, because it'll share all those global elements. You don't have to recreate things like headers, footers. It'll automatically put them onto all those pages when you're building them. And lastly is custom domains. So Kartra does not provide you with a custom domain. It does provide you with a Kartra domain. So it'll always be like your username.kartra.com, and it'll kind of look like this here. So all of your links will have that Kartra in the URL. If you own a domain, you can connect it to Kartra, and you can use that domain to replace all of the links that you have. So instead of having it, Kartra in your URLs, you can have your actual, www.yourwebsite.com/whatever you want to name the page. And there are limits based on the account that you have. I think Starter can have 1 domain connected, Growth can have up to 3, and then I think the last is up to 5, I believe, on certain plans. So just something to take note of. If you're just on that starter level, you can only connect 1 domain to your account. And there is a process for that. We do have instructions that you can follow along with. It can be confusing for kind of new people, because you're just copying. A lot of the work has to be done within your actual domain provider, but always refer to our instructions. I think there's a demonstrational video that'll walk you through it as well in there. So, you can follow along with that if you need. And that is all of the kind of general information for pages. So we'll go ahead and jump into it real quick, the actual demonstration. But this slide presentation should be available to you guys. I think Amanda put it in the chat, and tomorrow it will be emailed to you. So if you ever need to learn anything about pages, go to this slide presentation. You can click on any of these links, and they'll take you to what you need to know. Of course, we always have our support team that's always here to help if you get stuck, and our community if you have any questions just about, using pages and the actual, from other people with experience there. All right, so let me go ahead and jump into the actual page builder, and we'll kind of show you all of these settings here. Let me just move over. And of course, any of your questions, guys, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll answer them all as we're going through, this demonstration here. All right. Oop, I just stopped sharing. Let me go back. All right. So Pages in Kartra. It's always going to be in this pages section of your account. This is where you're going to see all the pages that you create. By default, you will see all sites. So these are all of the pages that you've created, whether they're published or not, they'll be in this section. And then kind of how I just described earlier, you have your different sites. So you can create a site down here, click say new site, and maybe you're making one for a funnel, maybe you're making an actual website. You can name it whatever you want and say like, here's a lead magnet funnel I created and it has my landing page and my download page associated with it, right? So I can quickly find all of the pages associated with my lead magnet funnel. Any sort of sites that you create. There are ways, again, to organize your pages within your account as well as share global elements between them. Now, when you are creating new pages, you always press this plus page button on the right-hand side, and this will bring up the template gallery. So let's just go in and make a page here together for the demonstration's sake. We can just go in, maybe we want to make something like, I don't know, a sales page. So we can go ahead and click like long sales page on the side. Looks like we have 52. And there's a bunch of different colors. You can see like, maybe we want one with blue colors. I mean, colors doesn't really matter too much because of course you can always go in and change the colors as you need. But say you just want to start with that as, a design element, you can definitely go in from there. You can sort these templates by I think just searching in here and by newest first and most popular. So you'll always see like the most popular ones by default, or if you want to see the newer ones, you can click that there. But let's just choose a random one here. You can always preview them as well. I will just do this demonstration. You can categorize your pages, just another organizational tool when you're going in your account. And you can choose the site when you are setting those up. So when we get into the page builder here, it's always going to load that template that we showed first. If you chose a blank page, you can always start from a blank page as well. You're just going to kind of see the empty slot there, and you're going to have to kind of build everything out yourself. But if we're starting with the template, of course, that whole template will kind of be listed in there. All right. I think my mouse just died. Unfortunate. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to use my trackpad. All right. So here you can see we're in the actual page builder now. And like I mentioned before, the page is divided into different sections. So you can see each section kind of on the right-hand side with this little scroll wheel, and it'll show us, this is section 1. If we scroll down, and section 1 is kind of this whole blue, has this image on the side, a little button on the left. And then our section 2 is down here, kind of like a little informational section, right? Now, all of these sections you can move around if you want to. You can delete them if you want to. So say you imported a template and you like the way the template looks, there's just one section you don't like, you can remove it. If you want to add an additional section, say like, all right, this page looks great, but it doesn't really have anywhere that people can purchase products from me, and this is a sales page, right? So we can go ahead and add a section, and we can do something like a call to action, maybe a pricing table if we're doing products. So we'll go into pricing tables. And this is where I mentioned earlier that there's a whole bunch more templates, right? Every time you click that add section button, it's pulling up all of the different section templates, and any sections that you saved as favorites will be here as well. So that's an easy way. If you design something that you like and you want to move it to another page, you can save it as a template. Section template and then refer to it within here. But we'll just go ahead and choose the pricing tables. So we want to add a product, and we'll just do, I don't know, maybe this one looks nice. Add it to our page, and now we have our pricing table. We can change any of the colors, change any of the information within it, right? Text, it's pretty easy to kind of go in there and change all of that information. Now, I guess kind of a first step for people, if this is kind of your first time going into the page builder, something I always like to tell people is to have your palettes ready. So I assume you guys have all of your brand colors that you like using. One way that you can input all of those palettes, those brand colors into your pages and save them is to actually create a palette. In order to do that, you do have to edit the color of something. So in this case, let's just edit like the color of the background. So background colors will always be within the actual section itself. And we can see here, I have a palette created called Launch It Live Campaign where we have all of our colors. But say we want to create a new palette, we can just go in here, click Create Palette, and we can name it, brand palette, something like that. Hit save. And then anytime we are adding colors in here, that does need to be in RGB format. Say we, enter our color value there, we hit plus, and then it adds it to our palette there so that we can keep adding all of our colors. Maybe we have like a purple, we can add it in, right? And then you're building your brand palette and this will save. So anytime that you in your page builder are getting access to a place where you can change colors, this will pop up. Now, the only time this does not show is for fonts. So that's just something I like to always tell people is that when you are going in and editing your font colors, it's always kind of a custom text color, right? You kind of have these colors to choose from, you hit more colors, and then you have to enter it as a hex value. So it's very weird. I don't know why in our regular palette creator, when you're choosing colors, it asks for the RGB, but when you're using the text, it asks for hex codes. So I typically like telling people, have your hex codes and your RGBs for each color that you have, just so that you can quickly refer to them. I don't think there's anywhere where you can save your text colors. So always just a good idea to have them on hand so that you can manually enter them if you need to change your text colors to your brand colors. The other thing too is with fonts. So fonts won't save unless you go ahead and heart them, like favorite them, and then they'll appear at the top of your font list. Otherwise, you kind of have to go through and choose all your fonts when you're going through the page builder each time, which can be kind of time consuming, kind of annoying, especially if your font's like all the way at the bottom. So just make sure you're giving your font a little heart that you want to keep, and that'll keep it at the top of your font selector within there. All right. Now let's just go in. I kind of mentioned these sections here, and that's, kind of how your page is built. I think if you're a beginner, just making sure that you're adding sections, deleting them, you don't really have to worry too much about the spacing of your pages. But if you want to get a little more advanced, you can have this edit columns off toggle at the top, and this lets you actually access the columns of your page. So within each section, it's how many columns, how many rows are listed within there. So like our section 1 has 1 row with 2 columns, right? And you can see the size of our columns with these bars. So if we wanted to, make that little off to the side and bring more attention to our text, we can do that, right? Just by making it a lot longer. You're able to kind of set up the spacing and how your page is laid out with the columns editor. And you do have to toggle this on and off to be able to edit your columns. So something you'll always have to note. And when you're in the column editor, you can't really edit things like text, right? It's only going to give you access to those specific columns. So you always have to deselect it, and then you're able to edit the actual elements again. But yeah, with the columns, this is how you're basically changing the structure of your page. You can click it on. Let me just turn it on. And it'll always show you your columns too. So it can be kind of visually a lot sometimes, but it's a good idea to kind of get familiar with how it looks, just because when you're in the actual column editor, you can click the individual rows and columns, and this is where you're editing them. So we can edit this, specific row, or if you're clicking on the column itself, it's kind of like a bluer button for the columns and a lighter blue, kind of teal greenish color for the actual rows will be off to the side. All right. Now, let's go off the bombs. I'll kind of get to all of your questions here soon. Just kind of want to show you all of the generic things. Now, the other thing I mentioned earlier was the AI. So if you click this generate with AI button on the left-hand side, this is going to generate copy for your entire page. So it'll fill in all of the text boxes that you have with copy, which might not be the best option, especially if you are, really building your sales page out. I think it's a good brainstorming way to kind of get things into your page first if you really have no idea. but again, the text is kind of going to go everywhere. So you don't really have a lot of control over, what section has what text. So how I like to use the AI is within individual sections. Say we have our text box here. You can see the generate with AI. And when we enter our prompt, it's only going to change the text of that individual text box. So we could say something, like write a sales pitch for me, and it'll, generate copy for that specific area of your account. Something else to note too with the page builder is you are able to see how your page looks in different formats. So by default, it's just going to be, desktop view. This is how it's going to look, when somebody's accessing it from their desktop. You can also see how it would look from a tablet view. So it's going to kind of compress everything. And then the mobile view, kind of the same deal, where it's just compressing things further, kind of making it, just a lot thinner. So you don't have a lot of control over how it's structured. It's going to kind of just take your page and use coding to kind of reformat it. Sometimes things can look a bit wonky if you're changing it from desktop view to mobile view. In those situations, what you can do is hide pages from those specific views. So say, we have something that looks good on desktop view, but it doesn't look good on mobile view. Maybe it's this first section, right? What we can do is edit this section, and there's a hide function, and you can hide sections from specific devices. So we can say, hide this section from a mobile device, and then you can create a new section that's pretty much similar to that one and hide it from a desktop device. So when somebody is viewing it from a desktop, they are not seeing this, they're seeing this section, but if they were viewing it from mobile, they wouldn't see this section. They would see a different version of it, right? So that's kind of a good way if you're building pages out. Sometimes things can get a little funky if you're switching from desktop to mobile view, and there's really no way to make it look good on one and the other sometimes. Sometimes it's just the way the columns are set up or the way things are laid out. So it's always a good idea in those situations just to hide that section from view and then create a new section that looks good for that view. And we'll go back to desktop. The other things are just all of your settings on the side of your page. So sites is going to be like, when you're creating your page and associating it with the site. So let's say we want to, I don't know, just associate it with my website. I'll hit assign, and it's going to ask you, you have the option of exporting your global elements is what they're called. So say we have a header or a footer on this page that we want to share with all the pages in our site. We can export them in from this page, or we can import them from another page in the site that we've already created. So if we've already exported like our header and footer, we can import them and it'll add them to this page. I'm actually not sure if this website has one. Let's see if I hit apply, if they'll change it, just to kind of show you guys here. See. Oh, yeah, it doesn't look like we have a header footer on that website, but if you did, it would import them into your site and you would see them. I think this footer was one that was added. You would see it on your page. You don't have to add it or anything like that. It'll just import what you've created previously. And under that is the settings, and this is where you're getting to all of your individual page settings. So SEO parameters, right? These are all things like how your page is going to appear in the tab and how it's going to appear in the search bar, right? You can also hide it from search engines if you want. So if it's like something like a thank you page or like a download page, right? You don't want people to just search for that on the internet. So good idea to hide those pages from search engines. But if it's just a general like sales page or a home page, good idea to kind of fill all this information out, right? All of your page information is for search engines, and all of these OG ones are for social media. If you're sharing your page through, Instagram, Facebook, things like that. You also can choose your thumbnail image. So if you're pushing it through social media, a little image of your thumbnail image of your page will appear as well. Next are the styles. So these are all of the general styles for your pages. You can change the overall background, you can change content backgrounds, but if you kind of just want to go in and edit them manually within your page, you have those options as well. And then lastly, within the settings, sorry too, we have our tracking codes. So if you guys are doing any sort of ad tracking, you want to see where your customers or viewers are coming from, this is where you're pasting all of your tracking codes for, like, Google and Facebook, all of those things can go in here. You're just posting the codes into the specific section, whether it be the footer, body, header, and then I think Facebook Ads has its own little box down here. Tags, so you can tag people that are visiting your page. The only thing that has to do with tags and something you guys should know is they do have to be a lead already in your account. So they have to have, filled or provided you with their information in some capacity already, just so that the cookie can be applied to them, because basically the system is using cookies to track them. So if it's a fresh visitor going to your page, you're not really going to be able to tag them and tag them. But if it's something like, I don't know, a success page or a sales page or a video page where somebody had to provide you with their information prior and then they're getting there, the system should be able to track them and tag them that way. Just something to note is that you won't be able to really get any fresh visitors unless they're providing you with information in some way. And then you have your redirects and pop-ups. If you ever need to set that information up, you can put in landing pop-ups. So this will show up when they first come to the page, and you get a few, design templates to choose from, and then of course an exit pop-up, which will show up before they, close out of the page there. And then lastly are all of your individual components. So these are the things that you're putting into the actual page. So, we talked about the page and section templates when we were going into it. You can definitely add all of your sections here, but maybe it just has something that you want to add. Maybe the section doesn't have a text box that you want, or maybe it doesn't have an image that you want to add. All of your components are in here, and you can add pretty much almost anything to a page: buttons, headlines, texts, and then any other Kartra assets too will be in this widget section. So say you made a calendar, you want to put that calendar onto a page, you can do that. A webinar registration, any countdown timers, surveys, they can all be added to your page that way. If you're doing something like a product, buttons are going to be your best friend, because buttons can pretty much link to anything. Let's see if we have a button on the page, and I can kind of show you guys. Here's a button. So we can click on this and just kind of show you that buttons are going to be your best friends when it comes to linking to any sort of thing. You can link to another page. You can link to any sort of Kartra assets like a checkout box or an opt-in form, a calendar. Really, buttons are kind of a way that you can add anything into your page without embedding it directly. If you don't want to do that option, like of course you can embed your Kartra form or your Kartra calendar to your page, or you can have them as just a button click. And the last thing I will show you guys before I start answering your questions is the header. So let's just go ahead and add a header to our page. Here, and always has to be at the top, and we'll just add a basic header menu. So within your header menu, if you're building something like a website, or you just want to have a header at the top of your page, you have these navigation points here at the top. So like your home, right? These always, you want to make sure that you're replacing with the correct link. So if it's to another page, make sure that all your links are updated to the right place. I believe you can also do drop downs in here too. Yeah, so if you want to create a sub menu, you can do a slide down a sub menu option here, and then it'll let you choose, how many sub menu links do you want, and you'll get to choose like, the name of that sub menu item and where it links to, and you're able to set that up for as many different sub menu items as you want. You can also do a scroll to a particular section in the page. So maybe you want to say like contact, and instead of redirecting to the contact, maybe you have contact information at the bottom of the page, so you can just link that to the contact button, right? And it'll always ask you for the section. So if you go to scroll to a particular section, it's going to ask you what section, and we can do like, I don't know, section 8, right? Now when somebody chooses that, the page will scroll all the way down to that section. So just a couple of different things you can do with your headers if you guys are building that out there. And so to say, again, once you edit all of this information and have it all nice, it's always a great idea to export that to your site if you are building a website. So you can export your header footer information that way. Once you have all the links and everything updated the right way, you don't have to worry about doing it a second time. The next page you create will automatically have that information there listed for you. Alrighty. I guess the only other thing I can show you guys, there is a lot of other things within the page builder too, but I'm going to wait for your questions since we're already 30 minutes in, and hopefully we can get through them that way. But the analytics that are available for your page. So obviously your Kartra is really good with providing you with analytics for pretty much everything. The conversions will show you, how many people are visiting your page versus how much money you're making from them, right? If it's a sales page, you're able to set up your goals and see how they're performing that way. Whereas engagement is, how many people are here. Kind of show you. Let's just choose a page just so you can see all of these stats, and you can choose the time frame, right? Maybe we want to do all time, maybe we want to do within the last 30 days, but it's just basically how people are engaging with the page, how many visitors, how long did they spend on the page, how often are they scrolling to the bottom, right? And then you're able to see all of this information. You can export all of your analytics if you need to. All of this information is kind of available for you to just see how your pages are performing. And then there is also split tests. So not something that you have to do, but you can create different versions of a page. So maybe for your sales page, you create a version A and a version B, and then you can see which page is converting better or has more engagement, and then choose that page going forward. So just a way that you can test different versions of your page. Basically how that works is you create a version A. So you're selecting what the version A would be. Let's just go in and kind of show you guys. And you're choosing the page. So let's say our version A is this page, and we want 50% of people going there. And then our version B is, I don't know, just choosing a random page, right? And we'll want 50% of people going there, right? So now we have two pages. Basically, they're going to have the same URL, and it'll, kind of let you see which ones are performing better there. Let's do a purchase. Say these are sales pages, so we want to see which product is selling better on these pages. We can choose any price point. Right, and that's the event that we're tracking. And then we can say automatically pick a winner based on how many products were sold. So whichever page is, making more sales, that'll automatically change it. And you're choosing the bounce, right? After 1,000 visitors, right? Redirect them to that page. But that's basically how you're setting up. And I think you can set up multiple versions than just A and B, although it might just be A and B for pages. I'm honestly not too sure with that. I know with things like emails, you can set up maybe up to 5 different split tests, which is a lot. But if that's the kind of marketing system that you guys are going through to kind of see which one's working best, you always have that option to set that up too. All right. And within this pages, you'll kind of see things not published and then ones that, have the image showing. Not published means it does not have a URL yet. People can't visit it online. It's only available within your account. It's essentially not published live, right? Whereas anything published live, we can go in here and get the code or link, and this is how people are visiting our pages. Now, by default, I kind of showed you guys that your URLs will always be your username.kartra.com. So it'll always have that Kartra in the URL. Of course, you can change the end if you want to. So if this is like our sales page, we can make the end sales or something like that, right? But it'll always have Kartra as kind of that prefix. If you have your domain connected, you can change this just by clicking on it, and you can see I have www.gddemos. Now that'll be the URL for my page going forward. So if your domain is connected, always a good idea to make sure that you're changing the name of your pages to that domain if you want them to be associated with it. Otherwise, it'll always have that default kartra.com in the URL there. The other thing too is you can get the page code. So this lets you basically generate a code for the entire page if you want to move that page to another system. The only thing is you can't really edit that page unless you're good with coding. I think it's just pulling it from Kartra. So that is another option available for you, but very limited on editing it after you generate that code. But all right, guys, that's kind of the basics with the page builder. I think, again, really just taking advantage of the templates and the section templates when you're going into it. And then when it really comes down to the specific design, just editing your brand colors and moving things around with the column editor is really how you're going to get the spacing and everything nice and neat how you want it.